Welcome to WHRO's Weekly Edition. I'm Jordan Christie.
And I'm Barry Graham.
We highlight the week's news and stories happening all over Hampton Roads. We have a whole new slew of stories for you this week. Astronauts on the Artemis II mission requested to name a crater after astronaut Reid Wiseman's wife, Carroll, who was a Virginia Beach native.
A new law is supposed to provide more transparency to Virginians about police use of flock traffic cameras in the state.
And senior homelessness is a growing problem in the U.S., and Hampton Roads is facing its own issues as a third of the homeless population is 55 and older.
I was shocked. Had no idea. And now I understand why there's so many homeless people.
It's WHRO's Weekly Edition. Astronauts on the Artemis II mission made history by reaching the farthest distance from Earth by any human. As part of their work, they observed new craters on the moon. As WHRO's Michelle Hankerson reports, they requested a crater to be named after a Virginia Beach native.
Carroll Tyler Wiseman's husband, Reid Wiseman, is the commander of the Artemis II mission currently in space. Carroll died in 2020 from cancer. She attended First Colonial High School and Virginia Commonwealth University. She became a pediatric nurse practitioner and worked at Children's Hospital of the King's Daughters before moving to Maryland and later Texas, where Reid worked on the Artemis mission. Reid and the Artemis crew spotted a moon crater on day 5 of being in space. They named it Carroll. According to USA Today, mission specialist Jeremy Hansen says the crater is bright and can be seen from Earth during certain parts of the lunar cycle. Michelle Hankerson, WHRO News.
Hampton City Council is taking a road trip to tour Richmond area data centers this week. WHRO's Nick McNamara reports on what the council hopes to learn about the centers.
Hampton leaders will tour a pair of facilities in Henrico and Hanover counties during the trip on Thursday. They'll be joined by company representatives on the visits to help Hampton officials better understand how they operate. The industry is quickly growing in the Commonwealth, which former Governor Glenn Youngkin once dubbed the data center capital of the world. It can be big business for localities, generating millions in tax revenue and billions in economic impact statewide. Residents in several localities, however, have criticized the impact of the data center's water consumption and energy use on the environment and people's wallets. There are currently no operating data centers or active proposals in Hampton, according to communications staff. City leaders plan to share more about their visit at a later council meeting. Nick McNamara, WHRO News.
UVA Health and Riverside Health are teaming up to expand specialty care in Hampton Roads. WHRO's I-Ching Wang brings us the latest on the new partnership.
Jason Lening is the Chief Strategy Officer at UVA Health. He says the partnership includes expanding heart surgery staff, launching new clinical trials, and creating a joint program that will train dozens of doctors each year.
UVA and Riverside are collaborating to bring the best of both worlds, academic medicine, which is what we do in Charlottesville, and incredible community-based medicine that Riverside does.
UVA doctors are also traveling to Newport News to evaluate transplant patients, allowing much of the care to happen locally. Surgeries will still take place in Charlottesville. Lening says the goal is to reduce travel and improve access, while still connecting patients to advanced care when needed. I-Ching Wang, WHRO News.
Shark populations are sharply declining in many parts of the world, but that's not the case in the Atlantic Ocean off the U.S. East Coast.
And part of the reason lies with the special team of marine scientists in Virginia and their decades of persistence.
Jeremy Cox, a reporter with the Chesapeake Bay Journal, takes us off the coast of Virginia Beach to tell us more.
These are the must-haves if you're heading out of the Chesapeake Bay into the Atlantic Ocean to catch sharks. Number 1, a big boat. Number 2, you need a capable captain behind the wheel. We have Voight Hogg. That's his given name, but
most people know me by Bubba.
He's been around the aquatic block a few times.
The last 19 years I've been a captain for Virginia Institute of Marine Science. Mostly they're large vessels, the Tidewater and the Bay Eagle. Before that I was a commercial fisherman, 26 years, crabbing and oyster and striped bass.
Number 3, you need an experienced crew. People who know what to do when a shark bares its teeth and its tail becomes a weapon. They also need to know how to catch them in the first place.
Right now we're setting the long line. There's going to be 100 hooks that go out. They've got Atlantic Menhaden as the bait.
The bait is a silver forage fish the size of a paperback on a line a mile long.
Then the line's going to soak for 4 hours. We'll come back and we'll pick it up. We'll see what we got.
The crew isn't fishing for fun, but for science, expanding what we know about sharks. What species inhabit these waters? How many are there? Are they in any danger of being overfished? Or worse, going extinct? Researchers say losing them would throw just about the entire oceanic ecosystem into turmoil.
Sharks are apex predators, and so they are the top of the food chain, and they help keep prey species and prey populations basically in check. So without them, prey species can move up and down, and that can really affect the rest of the ecosystem.
That's Alyssa Smith. She's a research technician with the Virginia Institute of Marine Science, VIMS. Its scientists have been conducting these shark surveys for 51 years. It's one of the longest-running shark population studies in the world that's independent of the seafood industry. They have been working to unlock the mysteries of what you could safely call one of the most intriguing creatures on the planet. Ruth again.
Sharks are just so cool. A lot of really interesting things about them. Like, they're definitely our friends. There's nothing to be scared of. I really think that it would be really interesting for a lot more people to get more involved with shark research.
As tough as they look, sharks are in a delicate spot. A study published in the journal Nature in 2021 found that shark and ray populations around the globe had declined by more than 70% since 1970. Overfishing is often cited as the main reason. Jameson Gregg is the marine scientist at VIMS who oversees the VIMS survey. He says sharks just can't reproduce fast enough to keep up with heavy losses, so
having a long-term monitoring survey is particularly important for sharks.
Monitoring efforts along the Atlantic seaboard appear to be making a difference. VIMS helped lay the groundwork for the first U.S. management plan for sharks in 1993. The survey's data highlighted shark population declines, leading to a ban on shark finning. That 2021 population study also found that shark numbers are down 70% globally. But sharks in the Atlantic, including the Chesapeake sandbar sharks, are doing much better than the rest of the world. They have been showing signs of recovery over the past 2 decades. Back on the boat, we're about 35 miles east of Virginia Beach. A winch squeals to life, hauling in the line as crew members watch the water.
7-4.
A shark with a torpedo-shaped body thrashes into view. Its powerful jaw is fixed to a hook.
All right, Adam, on you.
The crew pulls the struggling shark onto a net. Then comes the command to raise the net.
Up!
The crew converges on the shark, still twisting and turning in the net. A tape measure records its length. 159 centimeters long, a little over 5 feet, and it's a male. A researcher clips off a bit of flesh for DNA samples.
Will you read that tag number to me then?
Another attaches an ID tag just below its fin.
300. All right.
The shark has now been out of the water for 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Time to get him back in the water.
You gotta pull the bottom beforehand. There we go.
And that touches water. All eyes are on the shark.
Come on. There we go.
They want to be sure it swims away.
And he wriggles out into
Condition excellent. All right, bring it up.
Into the Atlantic.
I turn to Zach Enck next to me. It's been his voice you've been hearing most of this time, calling out the instructions.
How does it feel to be part of this?
It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. I love telling people about my job. I love every single part about it.
For the Chesapeake Bay Journal, I'm Jeremy Cox.
This story was reported and produced by the Chesapeake Bay Journal. You can read more work from reporter Jeremy Cox and others at www.bayjournal.com.
Still ahead on Weekly Edition, the city of Virginia Beach and local business owners are preparing for an intense summer season as Memorial Day looms. We'll hear how they prep for the season, but first, Governor Abigail Spanberger signed legislation meant to help those facing eviction. Michael Pope from partner station WVTF reports.
Evictions are not just the result of poverty. Evictions can also be the cause of poverty.
That's Christy Mara at the Virginia Poverty Law Center.
The only way to keep people from eventually getting evicted for not paying their rent is to help them pay their rent.
That's why she's celebrating a bill signed by Governor Abigail Spanberger establishing the Eviction Prevention Program that will identify factors contributing to evictions and provide interventions to prevent them. Taylor McCormick is CEO of the Hampton Roads nonprofit For Kids, which received money from a pilot version of the program that's existed since 2020.
It's super important when you're trying to deliver services to know if a funding stream is going to continue to be available.
Now that the governor has signed the bill establishing the program, it's expected to have a budget of $3.5 million each year from the general fund. I'm Michael Pope.
Virginia lawmakers want to build more affordable housing options. As VPM News' Dean Masharhi reports, one solution is factory-built homes.
One of the first bills from the 2026 General Assembly session that Governor Abigail Spanberger signed would expand where manufactured homes can be built. These are factory-built homes that are placed on steel frames that can be moved, but they often stay attached to the foundation. Under current Virginia law, these homes can only stay in agricultural zones, unless the locality makes a change to allow them in other areas. Under the new law, these homes can go in residential zones. Delegate Michelle Lopez Maldonado, a Prince William Democrat, introduced the legislation that takes effect July 1st.
There's just such a housing crisis happening in the Commonwealth and, quite frankly, across the nation. And so we're trying to figure out ways to relieve some of the pressure.
While she's optimistic about what her bill does, Maldonado says that lawmakers need multiple solutions to the ongoing housing crisis. Dean Masharhi, VPM News.
A new Virginia law is supposed to bring more transparency to police use of automatic license plate readers. The camera systems found in almost every Virginia city and county track millions of vehicle trips every year.
A new analysis shows the reasons officers give for searching surveilled data are often vague or missing altogether.
Kunle Falahi with the Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism at WHRO reports.
911, where's your emergency?
I don't know where you are.
Do you have an emergency?
Yeah.
Where are you?
Well, we ran out of gas on Peachtree Street. We went to the beach because it was our day off.
The early morning call to 911 on July 1st, 2025 in Norfolk set off a chain of events that included a massive search using automatic license plate readers. The network of cameras, known as ALPRs, track where vehicles travel. Police say when officers arrived at Peachtree Street, the driver of a Mercedes-Benz sped off, striking an officer. Nearly 900 searches were run for the car's license plate using ALPR technology. Under new Virginia law, officers are required to record why they searched the system. But in this case, and many others, the answers were all over the place. Officers listed reasons like suspect, investigation, criminal, even just 1, 2, 3. The Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism at WHRO analyzed about 200,000 searches from nearly 150 law enforcement agencies across Virginia. What VCIJ found? Officers frequently use vague one-word description or abbreviations that are hard to interpret. Civil liberties advocates say the vague or missing descriptions make it hard for the public to know how police are using the powerful and unblinking surveillance tools. Michael Seufer is an attorney for the Institute of Justice, a privacy rights nonprofit.
The law requires you to include enough information to substantiate that the use complies with the law. And in many of, the instances you flagged, there just isn't enough information to even make that determination.
However, the law leaves actual auditing of the use of the LPRs up to the police departments.
I know in Norfolk, for instance, they've adopted a policy where they do audits twice a month. Most police departments provide that if there's been misuse of the system, then they'll consider maybe taking disciplinary action against those officers.
Seufer said there is no record of a department taking disciplinary actions against an officer for the misuse of the ALPR. The Virginia law also limits data sharing with outside agencies. But records show some agencies still share data with hundreds of out-of-state departments. And when it comes to documenting searches, many of the most common reasons boil down to one word: suspicious. Across Virginia, more than 1,800 searches cited variations like suspicious activity or suspicious vehicle.
There's nothing illegal about being suspicious. It doesn't tell you enough to know if it's a legitimate search.
That was Dave Mars of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, a non-profit which champions digital privacy. He said the sheer number of searches on the LPR systems makes it impossible to determine the legitimacy of each query.
You'll have the number of searches coming through in the millions in a given month. There's no way to do like an accurate assessment of what's legit or what's not legit in here.
Law enforcement officials say some of the vague entries are due to training gaps or officers rushing through paperwork. The Virginia Association of Chiefs of Police says it will implement new ALPR training for officers. But critics say, without clear explanations in the data, it becomes difficult to know exactly why police are tracking thousands of Virginia drivers. Kunle Falai, Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism at WHRO.
The City of Virginia Beach and business owners say getting ready for summer is a year-round effort, but preparations really ramp up in the weeks ahead of Memorial Day. WHRO's Toby Cox tells us how these groups are aiming to meet the upcoming demand.
It's a sunny spring day at Virginia Beach's oceanfront. Gentle waves roll in and gulls fly overhead. People lay in the sun, ride bikes along the boardwalk, and stroll down the pier. But the best part about the beach?
Probably playing in the water or building sandcastles.
That's Luke Ruffner. He's a third grader from New Jersey on spring break. Tourism season is already here, but it'll still be a few weeks before it's in full swing. Mitch St. Clair with the city says until then, city crews will clean the beaches daily, add trash cans, and dig out the city's 200 access ways.
When we get bad storms or even northeast winds, they get covered with sand pretty quickly.
More than 14 million people visit Virginia Beach each year. St. Clair says that keeps them busy. Toby Cox, WHRO News.
A new report found hospitals sought more than $1.4 billion in medical debt collection in Virginia over the past decade. WHRO's I-Ching Wang says the costs stem from a circle of groups.
Researchers from Stanford and George Washington universities say medical debt is an ecosystem involving hospitals, lawyers, and courts that can turn unpaid bills into lawsuits and wage garnishment.
We're finding is these aggressive, egregious practices is a whole ecosystem against the American worker where their wages and their paycheck are garnished to pay off the hospital when the hospital didn't have to prove that they were overcharged or charged appropriately.
That's Cynthia Fisher from PatientRightsAdvocate.org, a nonprofit pushing for healthcare price transparency. She says federal rules require hospitals to publish prices, but in practice, the information is hard to find, making true price transparency nearly impossible. I-Ching Wang, WHRO News.
Local leaders recently gathered in Portsmouth to celebrate a facility that will transform how the region deals with garbage. WHRO's Catherine Hefner went there to learn how they take out the trash.
Under a 20-year contract with the Southeastern Public Service Authority, Colorado-based AMP will use AI to remove recyclables straight from the trash stream. The goal is to cut in half the amount of junk sent to the landfill, which is running out of space. Here's Portsmouth Mayor Shannon Glover at this week's ribbon-cutting ceremony.
We are lowering emissions, reducing environmental impacts, and setting a new standard for sustainable infrastructure nationwide, right here in Portsmouth.
Inside the plant, Matanya Horowitz with AMP explains how AI helps sort the trash.
See these high-speed conveyor belts that take the garbage, move it really fast, throw it over a waterfall, and then little jets of air push it out.
The company's also building a bigger plant down the road that will turn organics like food and yard waste into a reusable substance called biochar. Catherine Hafner, WHRO News.
Senior homelessness is increasing nationally and locally. WHO's Toby Cox reports that in Hampton Roads, people 55 and older make up about a third of the homeless population.
Debbie Montague moved into her Norfolk efficiency 9 years ago, but a lot has changed since then. Montague is 66 and bedbound. She can't breathe without machines running constantly. Her landlord told her in February he wasn't renewing her lease. He wanted her out April 1st, but she has nowhere to go.
It's hard for me to find some place to live. I can't just stand up right now.
She says she feels lost. Just upstairs, her neighbor got the same letter with the same move-out date. Hi. Are you Michael?
Yes, ma'am.
Michael Scott is 67. He's lived in the apartment for nearly 3 decades. A near-fatal car accident in the early aughts left him with a brain injury.
The car went over the overpass, become airborne. I did 2 nose dives, bam, bam. My head went to the windshield.
He can't drive and struggles to remember things, but he's learned his way around Ghent. He has friends, he knows where to buy groceries and how to get to his doctors.
This is my home, I thought.
Both Scott and Montague are seniors. Both depend on disability to pay for rent, and both need to find a new place to live. Mary Polhouse has known Scott for decades. She sits at her kitchen table. An ornate clock counts the seconds on a wall nearby. Polhouse has been determined to keep Scott housed. In the past month, she's printed, filled out, and hand-delivered 20 housing applications on his behalf. She says he couldn't have done this himself.
It's stressful. If he didn't have me, honest to God, I have no clue what would happen to him.
When she found out Montague was in a similar situation, she reached out to local organizations for help. As the April 1st deadline loomed nearer, she says she lost hope something would work out for either of them. She didn't know how few options there were for people like Scott and Montague, not yet homeless, but on the cusp.
I was shocked. Had no idea. And now I understand why there's so many homeless people.
Increasingly, the homeless population is skewing older. Melissa Bonfiglio with the Legal Aid Society of Eastern Virginia says limited income, mobility challenges, and issues using technology all contribute. But the root issue is a lack of affordable housing.
There's not a happy ending for many of our clients unless we're able to get them into public housing or senior-specific subsidized housing.
Julie Dixon at the Planning Council, a regional social services nonprofit, says even when they can find older homeless adults housing, it doesn't always work out, especially if they have to relocate away from their support system.
They end up failing out just because they are lonely.
She says 28% of the homeless population in Hampton Roads is 55 or older. The April 1st deadline came and went. Polhouse found a place for Scott in Virginia Beach with little time to spare. She says she's relieved he's not homeless, but Scott, far away from what's familiar, isn't adjusting well.
It's new and I don't know nobody. I still get lost whenever I try to go to the store.
Back in Ghent, Montague hasn't left the apartment. An attorney from the Legal Aid Society requested the landlord give her more time to move out. As of April 6th, the landlord hasn't responded.
And all I'm thinking of, all that keeps running through my mind is that I'm just going to be sitting down on the sidewalk. That's what I keep seeing, just sitting down on the sidewalk.
Polhouse says Scott was close to falling through the cracks of the social safety net, and Montague is still in freefall. Toby Cox, WHRO News.
You've been listening to WHRO's Weekly Edition. We had help today from WHRO's Toby Cox, Catherine Hefner, Michelle Hankerson, Nick McNamara, and Yi-Ching Wang.
The Chesapeake Bay Journal's Jeremy Cox, WVTF's Michael Pope, VPM's Dean Mirshahi, and VCIJ's Kunle Falai. Also Connor Worley, who produced today's show. A reminder that you can always catch full episodes on the Weekly Edition podcast feed.
You can get your news updates at WHRO.org and the WHRO Reports podcast feed. For all of us at WHRO and WHRV, I'm Barry Graham.
And I'm Jordan Christie. Have a great weekend.